Welcome to the Art of Black Miami podcast, sponsored by the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. Our stories introduce emerging and experienced artists who make Miami an exciting place to live and visit. I'm Rosie Gordon-Wallace, curator and arts advocate. Miami is home since the 1970s. My passion is cultivating the vision and talent of contemporary artists from the Caribbean diaspora, artists of color, and immigrant artists. Many cultures and languages come together to shape the character of Miami. Devora Perez is daughter to Nicaraguan immigrants. She was born in Miami and now lives in Hialeah, Florida. In 2016, Devora earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from New World School of the Arts, and in 2020, her Master of Fine Arts from Florida International University. She shows her art at venues across Miami and the U.S. What was the pivotal experience that made you become an artist? When did it happen?
I want to believe that I was born one, always one, and I never grew out of it. The story goes that it was evident in my art-making abilities when I was 4 years old. And I was always painting, drawing, coloring, wherever I went, in school, at church. To this day, I still have that habit of taking sketchbooks with me and drawing. My family is super supportive of my love for art.
That is so wonderful to hear, because that's not always the case. How does your art connect specifically with Miami?
I was born, raised, and have lived in Miami my entire life. So Miami is sort of the vista through which I view the world at large. I'm inspired by the bright colored buildings, the Art Deco buildings, the neon lights in Ocean Drive, the multiple construction sites that populate Miami. They're part of my visual language.
How are you documenting the change from your neighborhood through our heritage neighborhoods to Miami Beach?
They've kind of inspired different series of works. So for example, for Hialeah, which is where I live, I've made many works that are titled the Home Series, right? Where I take apart pieces of my home and I invent something new, and then I have to fix it later. Then I commute also to Little Haiti a lot. My studio is there. That has inspired the landscape series. For Miami Beach, that culture has inspired the color series.
I absolutely love them. It brings another dimension to your work. You're an artist who studied painting, and your picturesque way of bringing your ideas to Miami are through sculpture. So how does the idea of the picturesque come into play in your work?
The newly gentrified is the picturesque. So it entails the removal of local histories and of people. And I'm thinking of the picturesque in relation to its emergence, the term, in the 18th century, and how it was used to conceal the displacement of people from their homes. I wanted to kind of create a direct correlation between that history and the history of Miami. And it still happens today, not just locally, but nationwide and beyond.
So here you are documenting this picturesque vision of Miami through displacement and deconstruction. I look at your horizon sculpture, and that horizon that you made with asphalt in that sculptural piece bears the question, when people leave, where are they going? So share with me through your work materials that you've been drawn to.
I tend to use industrial materials, everyday materials. It's concrete, plexiglass, wood, metal, things you find in the homes like wallpaper, fabric, even decorative pebbles. And I did for a few reasons, because people can relate to them. There's nothing elitist about that. I think it helps with maybe the understanding of the work, even if it's maybe heavily conceptual, but it removes barriers. And it allows people to enter into that space and bring their own experiences, interpretations to the work as well.
The work is minimal and quiet and aesthetically beautiful. How do you get to that?
I think about my work being contemplative in nature. It's open and welcoming in that sense.
I want to talk a little bit about the process of making the work, and in particular, the temporary installation entitled Erasure in the Making.
The making of it was very specific, very detail-oriented, and everything had to be thoroughly thought out in the beginning stages. For example, the dimensions, the integrity of the structure, the weight, the math involved to make these specific plexiglass boxes. The other issue was the location in the Everglades, the weather conditions, and issues with permits, and the time frame. I really had to plan this out. There was one day, a full excursion, where I mapped out using Google Maps and selecting locations that I thought would be helpful. And when I went there, and I believe I went to about 7 sites, I realized that what I wanted originally was kind of impossible because the grass is tall and swampy. I would try to put my foot in the grass and my foot kept going in. And I thought, there's no end to this. And so the work was designed to be able to be easily assembled and disassembled in about 20 to 25 minutes.
Why the wilderness? What was the process of deciding to work in this Everglades wilderness?
I was thinking about having a stark kind of juxtaposition, something man-made in the face of nature, right? This brutal, beautiful force. And it was supposed to be symbolic of our ideologies, our values that we uphold and preserve in conflict or in direct opposition to the real sense of freedom and real American values. That's what the whole work is about. In the making of the work, I used like miter saws, table saws, hand planers, and created kind of these like half-lap joints, drilled holes, and they were made so that they were able to be put apart, right? So I used bolts, washers, things of that nature. The making of the plexiglass boxes is actually a very quiet process, right? I used like a welding solvent that fuses the pieces together. So once the box is about 90% complete, I lay it on the table, and then I start pouring in the asphalt, compacting it with a trowel. And in the other box, I started pouring the cement, it's like if it was paint.
You know, it's really amazing how art takes us to some of these really deep issues that our nation is dealing with: systemic racism, class, gender, gentrification. You attack that in this really elegant, quiet work made from everyday, ordinary things.
It's supposed to speak about where we are as a nation. I'm questioning, where do we go from here? Like, are we reinventing ourselves? Are we breaking down barriers?
How does the gallery setting affect the way a viewer might understand your work?
I want to say that I'm really cautious into what I put out into the world. I use everyday materials so that people are able to relate to the work. And I also think about the fact that if people don't necessarily understand the work, it's not really a failure, because then I'm negating the fact that they also have their own lived experiences. And I can't control that. So then, again, I leave that open space so that people come and feel welcome to interpret how they need to interpret.
Not only are you quietly pushing the needle around these really deep conversations around immigrants, horizons, gender, race, you have done it successfully. How do you see your role in the future of art in Miami?
So aside from challenging myself and my practice, and I desire to do that forever, as long as I live, I see myself being part of important discourses in terms of the future of Miami, in terms of art and its identity. You know, we can't speak about Miami without talking about the diverse cultures, mixes of languages. And I think we're still relatively young and we're still kind of wading through the waters of what that is.
This was an Art of Black Miami podcast sponsored by the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. I am Rosie Gordon-Wallace. Today we introduce you to artist Devora Perez. Domestic environments, urban architecture, and the South Florida landscape inspire her work. Devorah makes poetic statements about the human condition with everyday materials. Grounded in real life, her abstract art is accessible and inspiring to all of us. We recorded this conversation inside the Ward Rooming House, an art space in the historic neighborhood of Overtown, a mecca for Black art and culture. Art of Black Miami highlights the year-round art and culture scene in Miami's heritage neighborhoods and across communities in Greater Miami and the beaches. If you are enjoying our stories, visit artofblackmiami.com to learn more. Engage us on social media, post and share using the hashtag ArtofBlackMiami. The Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau is an accredited, independent, not-for-profit sales and marketing organization. The GMCVB's mission is to attract visitors to Greater Miami and the beaches for leisure, business, and conventions. For up-to-date art events, promotions, and more information, visit artofblackmiami.com.